for coming to tonight's webinar. So tonight we're going to be discussing how to estimate renovations, analyze costs, and minimize mistakes. And just wanted to go over a few ground rules before we get started. First of all, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just be sure to type them in the chat below and we'll get to them in the order received. We'll have a section near the end where we'll be able to answer them in that order. All right. And if you also have any additional questions beyond that, be sure to shoot us an email at info@nhanlamacademy.com, and one of our representatives will get to that in as fast as possible. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Please allow me to introduce the man who is responsible for all of this, for going out of his way and being willing to help every person that he can, even during the pandemic, whether it is through real estate advice or in general. He never lets any obstacles get in his way, and he loves to have fun, of course. He also knows a bit about the facts, and he makes a heck of a lot of money in real estate, but the best thing I can definitely agree on is that he's very down to earth. So please welcome Mr. Nhan Lam. Nhan, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you very much for the warm and kind introduction, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'll tell you guys, April 14th is the middle of April, and you can be anywhere else this evening, but you chose to be here this evening to learn more about real estate, and hopefully get a chance for you for me to give some value for you guys, and hopefully that you guys can give value to the group as well as you work together and help each other grow. Now, traditionally, we would be in a live seminar right now in person at a hotel space or at a country club. But again, due to COVID, we are still doing things virtually until further notice, until things kind of calm down and people get a little less worried. And also, we have less liability of people getting sick. We do not want to be responsible for being an event to where someone can get sick and potentially spread COVID along the way. So tonight's topic, guys, I'll tell you. One of the biggest skills that you want to have is to learn how to estimate a renovation without a contractor, okay? And the reason why that's important is because, number one, if you're new, you don't want to get ripped off, all right? And also, you want to be able to have the ability to analyze things in the comfort of your home, especially in this day and age. So let me go ahead and get right into the slides, okay? So let me go ahead and first of all, ask yourself, why is this skill important, okay? Well, it's important for a number of reasons. Number one, you can do your own analysis without ever leaving your home, as I mentioned. You can also, based on that analysis, make offers without ever seeing the property. We've done this long enough to know how to estimate renovation, use a blended rate over time, and share this information with you so that way you can do the same thing. We create our formulas based on past experience and also past performance on different jobs that we have done. Also, because of this skill, you can also do this business part-time. When I first started real estate investing, I was still working on a full-time job as an IT project manager. I have a degree in engineering, and I was working full-time for the federal government as a contractor, all right? So I did real estate starting off on a part-time, spare-time basis while at the same time raising my family. Also, why is this skill important is because if this is your first deal, the last thing you want to do is invite a contractor to every property that you look at. And they're just going to get burnt out because let's say you invite them to 3 properties. They've been to 3 properties with you, giving you 3 estimates, and then you end up not buying the deal, and then you burn them out. So they don't want to work with you anymore because they want to work with people who know what they're doing and not going to waste their time. All right. The good contractors out there do not want their time wasted because they know their time is valuable and they want to work with people who know what they're doing. You can also focus on high value activity. OK, you don't want to, spend too much time doing the nitty gritty stuff if you don't have these skills. OK, so focus on high value activity. Now, in addition to that, you want to make sure that the pricing is fair from your contractors. Now, if you guys have ever used contractors, whether it be for your personal primary residence home or another property like a rental property, everyone prices differently. I remember before real estate, we had an HVAC problem and then we got 3 different prices for the same job. It was amazing how far apart these people were for the same thing, okay? And I can tell that some people were there to try to rip you off. And then some people were genuinely trying to just get the job done and move on to the next thing. So you never know who are good and who are bad. But here's the thing, guys. Just because one contractor is bad doesn't mean all of them are bad. There are always good people and bad people in anything. Just like there are good teachers and bad teachers. There are good police officers, there are bad police officers. There are good investors, there are bad investors. Likewise with contractors, there are good contractors and there are bad contractors, all right? So you want to make sure you keep the good ones close to you by not burning them out, not wasting their time. You also can use this information to sell your potential deal as a wholesale and use it as a marketing tool. So let's say you have a potential deal, you're about to get ratified on a contract, and you need to advertise it out to your end markets, or maybe even advertise it out to us in our network and say, we're wholesaling for this price. By the way, the estimated renovation is this amount, and this is the ARV. And these numbers should make sense. And if the numbers make sense, people will be flocking all over your deal to buy that wholesale from you, okay? Now, what's required to be able to estimate a renovation accurately? Well, number one, you definitely want to know number of bathrooms, number of bedrooms, and total square footage of your house. The year built, if it was ever updated, and also the floor plan layout, okay? Because if the floor plan was built in the 1950s, most likely everything looks like a maze, and you need to remove some walls to have an open concept kitchen style, so that way it trends, you know, that you can have a type of style that trends today and not 50 years ago, okay? So you want to get this information and also understand what's selling in different locations that you're doing business in. See, if you go to DC in Northwest, the styles of renovation may be different than what's going on in Southeast DC, or maybe Prince William County, or Fairfax County, or Montgomery County, okay? So everything is different, but you want to check what counts, what's sold in the area. Most of this above information, by the way, it's available on the county tax assessment website, or if you're a licensed agent, you can get access to it on the MOS, which stands for Multiple Listing Service. Now, the exit strategy, you got to know. So let's say you take a look at a deal right now. You have to ask yourself, what's my exit strategy? Am I going to wholesale it? Am I going to fix and flip it? Or am I going to keep it as a rental? And once you decide that, you can determine exactly how to analyze that particular deal, okay? So once you go into a property and you decide on an exit strategy, you're now going to decide on if it's going to be a rental grade renovation or a resale grade renovation. The reason why is because if you're going to keep it as a rental, you're not going to put the most expensive materials in that rental property, because tenants will not treat it like they own the property. They're going to mistreat it. Things are going to get damaged, and you don't want expensive appliances and expensive cabinets to be damaged because of negligence due to the tenant. Now, yes, you will keep a security deposit from a tenant, but the security deposit is nothing if you put in expensive things inside your rental property, okay? So resale grade, we're going to put top of the line stuff, but rental grade, we're going to put standard things in there that makes it livable for a tenant to enjoy it as a tenant, as a rental, but they're not going to be using as a home they're going to live in, okay? So you take a look at the materials that we're looking at: kitchen cabinets, countertops, appliances, flooring, plumbing fixtures, and bathroom showers, okay? You got to take a look at the different grades of material on what you're going to do. So I'm going to see a couple of pictures here for each item, okay? So for the kitchen, this is a very typical rental grade kitchen, to where you have a standard white cabinet with very cheap faces, okay? This may be existing already, and they may be in good condition. You may just choose to paint the cabinets, and that's fine too. And then the countertops, they're not expensive. These are probably Formica or Corium countertops, very cheap, all right? And then you have standard white appliances that are not expensive, okay? You'll notice that the sink is not all that great either. This is just a standard sink with a standard faucet. They're not deep sinks that are very expensive. With garbage disposal units and everything like that. Generally, I don't like to put garbage disposal units inside rentals, because that's the first thing that gets clogged and have a maintenance call, okay? People misuse garbage disposal units because they throw stuff in there that they shouldn't be throwing out in the first place, okay? So as a rental property, you want to make it to code to make it livable, but you don't have to go all out on that, okay? Now, what does a kitchen look like for a resale grade, all right? So here's a similar kitchen of the similar size, and you'll notice that the cabinets are custom cabinets. There's crown molding on top. There are pendant lights, and there are also recessed lighting inside the kitchen. The appliances are stainless steel and not white. The countertops are granite, and the backsplash is glass, okay? So you notice on the rental grade renovation for a kitchen, there was no backsplash because it's not needed. But for a resale grade, you want to make it look glamorous and look at very nice and exciting. So you put a backsplash there, which doesn't cost much to do. It just needs a little bit of labor, a little bit of materials, and you make it look very nice, and that makes it pop out to where a new homeowner can take a look and say, wow, because you created a wow factor. Okay, moving on to the next item here. Okay, our bathrooms. All right, so you'll see here on the left picture is a standard rental grade bathroom. You'll notice that the shower is a plastic mold. It doesn't cost that much to buy that mold and install it. Okay, the fixtures are also very standard, along with the vanity and also the toilet. Then you look on the right hand side. This is a resale grade bathroom, to where you see the tiles are either porcelain or marble or ceramic or something that's very nice. The flooring is the same thing. Okay, it's ceramic, porcelain, or something like that that makes it look very pop. It's not plastic, it's not vinyl, it's not laminate. Okay, so this is resale grade materials when it comes to an actual bathroom. Now, once you have all that set, you have to now take a look at how you're going to estimate that renovation based on what you want to do. All right. And right now, I'm going to show you exact numbers of what we use today, not last year, not years ago, but today during the pandemic. Okay. Because materials cost has increased in the last year, specifically lumber. Okay. So all the numbers I'm sharing here assume that you'll be using a general contractor. In other words, there's going to be one point person that you're going to work with that's going to coordinate all the different trades: carpentry, plumbing, electrical, and mechanical. Okay, so you're not going to be calling like 5 different people managing your project. You're going to talk to one person. He's going to bring everyone in to do and manage a project from a holistic standpoint. And of course, they charge a little bit more because of that service, but you would have it no other way. You want to spend your time looking for the next deal and not managing that existing deal. Okay, so we're assuming using general contractor. We've always used one and haven't never not used one. Okay, so fix what's broken. Okay, if you're only repairing items that's broken, no need for new installations or remodeling. Generally $15 a square foot, which includes paint and carpet, is what you would estimate for. Okay, and then you have the category of what's called simple rehab. A simple rehab is when you completely remodel the home with everything new in the same exact location. And this also includes one big ticket item like a new roof, a new HVAC, or maybe even new windows. One item and not more than one. Okay, if you have to change the roof and the HVAC, then the estimate will go beyond what we have here. Okay, so for rental grade, we have $23 per square foot. For resale grade, we have $32 per square foot. So if you have a 1,000 square foot home and you're planning to sell it, 1,000 times $32 in the simple rehab is $32,000. Generally, we will put a category of a simple rehab for houses that are built in 1980 or newer, less than 40 years old. Okay, and the reason why 40 years old is because most of the time houses that are built after 1980, the electrical is still good, the plumbing still good. We don't have to change much there. We're just doing a cosmetic uplift of removing the kitchen, replacing with new cabinets, new countertops, new appliances, new flooring, and such, and things of that such. Okay, now that's simple rehab. Now the next category is what we call a minor rehab. A minor rehab includes everything in a simple rehab, but also includes a couple of things to allow you to move walls. Okay, some walls, not many walls. Okay, which allow you to move the plumbing and electrical if needed. So if you're buying a house that was built between 1950 and 1979, most likely the floor plan doesn't make sense for today's standard. The stove may be in the wrong place. The refrigerator may be in the wrong place. The sink may be in a weird location. So you have to rearrange all the different appliances so that way they function in today's standard. Likewise with the bathroom, maybe the toilet is done wrong, or the bathtub is in the wrong place. You know, that happens if you have houses that are over 50 to 60 years old. So you may need to relocate the plumbing, relocate the electrical, and that costs money. For a rental grade, $37 per square foot. For a resale grade, $46 per square foot. All right. So $46 a square foot. Let's say again, same house. If it's 1,000 square feet, $46 times a square foot is $46,000 for a minor rehab. Minor rehabs are generally reserved for houses built between 1950 to 1979. And the reason why, again, from those time periods, floor plans may or may not have made sense. But of course, you get to the later 70s, some houses and townhouses have already started going into the new way of doing things to where things make sense to this time, even today. Okay, so depending on how the house is laid out, you can choose between simple rehab and also minor rehab. Moving on to the last category is a major rehab. A major rehab is something that includes everything as a minor rehab, but includes also a major floor plan changes. These are houses that are built probably before 1950. Where have you seen really weird things? I mean, the bathroom is out of place. You need to relocate the bathroom. There was no master bathroom. Or maybe the kitchen is in the basement instead of the main level. There's a lot of different things we have seen across the years to where you need to rearrange everything to have it to today's standard to make it functionable. So in order to accomplish this, we need to replace most electrical wires, most likely replace the panel so that way you can run central air. And then also a lot of the times you have houses that have cast iron plumbing and pipes that have long since rusted and rotted, which needs full replacement. All right. So what you'll need to do is replace all the electrical and plumbing and adding a few more things to make it look to today's standard. Rental grade, $51 a square foot. Resale grade, $58 per square foot. Okay, so let's go through a couple of pictures on what a simple rehab looks like. Here's a before picture for a townhouse. You'll see where the refrigerator is. You'll see where the stove and the hood is, and also dishwasher and sink. All right, the same exact kitchen. From the picture we showed previously, you'll notice that everything is in the same exact place. The refrigerator is the same spot, the oven and the stove is in the same spot, and the dishwasher and the sink is all in the same spot. We just literally took everything out and put everything new back in the same exact location. Did not have to move plumbing, did not have to move any kind of electrical whatsoever. And this particular townhouse was built in 1981, which qualifies for a simple rehab. All right, here's a minor rehab. This is a Rambler in Arlington, Virginia that was built in 1955. You'll see here that the kitchen looks very small, looks like a 10 by 10 kitchen, and the stove is just hanging out with nothing on the end. And you'll see the dishwasher and the sink is in the same location. I have no idea how that worked, but we obviously had to redo everything to today's standard, okay? So what ended up happening, and this is what the house looks like on the outside. It's a brick Rambler with a little add-on. Is that we knocked down that one wall, all right, and opened it up to the little workshop area to where we'll build the brand new kitchen, okay? So you'll see we removed all the wall. We had to relocate the plumbing. We have to relocate the electrical. We have to relocate a lot of different things to be able to make this kitchen functionable, okay? And you'll see in the back, you know, we redid the siding and a couple of other things, and that's what the new kitchen looks like in the same exact house. Obviously, much bigger and much more luxurious, all right? Nothing like the old kitchen whatsoever. Everything here is brand new with new plumbing, new electrical, and we had to do that for the kitchen area. Now, we didn't have to do that for the entire house, just that kitchen area, and that's pretty typical of what we need to do for a house built between 1950 to 1979. All right, next category, here's some pictures, is a major rehab. Now, this house was built definitely before 1950. I believe it was built in 1920, if I'm not mistaken, okay? Now, on the surface, when you walk in, things don't look that bad, all right? You'll see here, you have flooring that doesn't look like in bad shape. You have drywall that doesn't look like in bad shape. And then you have a kitchen that doesn't look like in bad shape, but obviously things are out of place, right? The stove is in the corner. It shouldn't be in the corner in today's standard, okay? There should never be a wall next to the stove. So here's what happened though. When we removed all the old cabinets, all the old flooring, what we discovered was that in between there was a random fireplace that was covered up in behind the walls. Now we didn't know it was there. All right, we didn't know it was existing. It was just in a very weird and odd location, and the fireplace was blocked off and was not working. So we ended up having to remove it. But you look at the bottom at the structural floor joists. All right, and I'll give you another picture here. You see the floor joists were rotted with termite and water damage. All right. Now, the floor joists are designed to hold up structural load above it. If these are rotted, that's not good. All right. So we ended up having to change out a lot of structural things. We redid the entire floor plan. Okay. And so you can take a look at a couple of pictures here of what the renovation looked like. In addition to that, by the way, once we removed the floor joists, we saw a big old crack in the foundation that also needed to be addressed. So you'll see here one of our workers digging out a little trench to be able to pour a footer underneath it to resupport that foundation structure, and getting approved by the engineer to make sure that it is enough to withstand the load on top long term. So under construction, after removing out all the walls, removing the chimney, removing all the nonsense that were in the way, they were all rotted. You'll see here that the only thing that was existing was the outside shell, the outside wall. and you'll see 2x4s from 1920. They were built from the ground all the way up to the end of the roof, and these were like 24 feet long. All right, and they don't make 2x4s that long anymore, but back then apparently they did. But there was just one piece, all right, and one piece going from the ground all the way up. It was amazing. So once we finished up the framing there, we built up the floor joists for the second level, and then you'll see here the main level is completely different than what it was before. It's completely open for concept, new everything, new hardware, new joists, new drywall, new electrical, new plumbing, new everything. Okay, so that was an example of a major rehab. Now, what I want to do now, guys, is do something a little different. I share some examples on fix and flip. Now, we did a video very recently for one of our colleagues who was renovating their house to rent for a new tenant, okay? And this kind of renovation, she could have easily used it to sell the property as well, but she decided to keep it for rent as well, and we keep the price very well for her. And so we want to share with you guys a quick video on how a renovation looks like when it comes to a rental grade property. So Nicholas, please go ahead and play that video. Thank you. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, share my video, like my video, and hit the bell. Another day, another property. Today, I'll be going to a property that's not owned by us, but owned by one of our buy and hold colleagues who've been investing in real estate for the past 10 years. They hired our construction crew to make the house rent ready again because their tenants of 8 years recently moved out and they want to rent it out again to new tenants, and obviously the house will need some work done to make it ready for new tenants again, okay? If you're already a paid subscriber to Nhan Lam Academy, you'll be getting access to real information as I do these videos to see what we're doing for this investor. If you're not a registered Academy user yet, I encourage you guys to register to our Academy, whether it be the standard subscription or the premium subscription, so that way you get access to real information done by real investors with real numbers and real videos in real life, okay? These are not fluff and puff type deals where we put on YouTube and we put on Facebook that, that sugarcoats everything. But no, these are real things that investors go through that they have to consider to be successful. So if you haven't registered, please register now. If you are, please come join me as I drive to this property to show you exactly what we're doing in the scope of the project, okay? Ready to join me? Let's go. Newsflash, we have our own construction team. A construction team designed for investors by investors. I tell you guys, real estate investors have the toughest time getting their own contractors to do the right thing for the right price. Generally, the typical contractors always want to mark up the price so they can maximize their profit, never thinking that they work with someone regularly and get volume properties. They will make a lot more money by working with investors than just regular homeowners, okay? So our construction team's tagline is that our team is designed for real estate investors and not homeowners. So we're actually going to a property right now where one of my colleagues who've been investing in real estate for the last 10 years had a rental property where the tenants vacated recently and they need to fix it up again to make it rent ready for another tenant. We gave them a wonderful estimate for investors at the investor's discount, and we're actually going to go to the property right now to check on the status of that property to see how things are going. Most of the scope of work is just paint and carpet, but we're going to take a look to see how it looks and to show you the progress of the project itself, to show you exactly what an experienced investor would do to rent out the property again after a tenant's been living there for the past 8 years or so. Okay, so we're at this property right now where my colleague has owned it for the past 10 years. They had a tenant living in there for about 8 years and moved out recently, and she wants to rent it out again. So we are doing a rental grade renovation with our construction team. So come on into the property. I am going to wear my mask for safety reasons, and we're going to take a look at what they're doing inside to make it rental ready again, okay? So come on in. Okay, so it looks like it's pretty safe here. I'm gonna take off my mask so that way you guys can hear me clearer. But I'm in the living room right now. As you can see, the floor is covered in
the cloth here, so that way when they paint, it's not going to hit the hardwood floors that's underneath it. The hardwood floor is actually still in great condition, so we're not going to do anything to it whatsoever. We're going to protect it, but the drywall definitely needed help. We're patching up all the holes that were in the wall. They've removed all of the plates from the outlets and also the switches, so that way they didn't paint over the switches and outlet plates, all right? And basically they patch up the holes, they sand it, and then they're gonna prime the walls, and then they're going to paint the walls with an agreeable gray color that's very neutral for the actual rental property, okay? So there's gentlemen here working. They'll be working in the background. They're in rental property, okay? So there's gentlemen here working. They'll be working in the background. They're enjoying their music while they're working. It's good to work and have fun at the same time, right? So I don't have a problem with that as long as they're doing the right things, which they are. And we've been having this crew work with us for many, many years, and we're really excited to have them stay on our team here. So with regards to the ceiling here, because it is a rental property, we're not installing any recessed lights for the owner. We're just going to repaint it with the ceiling white paint to make it look nice again, okay? And note, guys, that the wall is going to be a flat paint, whereas when they paint the baseboards and any kind of wood trims, it's going to be a semi-gloss satin white color, okay? So remember, drywall will always use regular flat paint, and then trims, baseboards, chair rails, and anything like that will be semi-gloss, so that way it pops out and looks shiny. So we're in the kitchen right now, and the kitchen cabinets are in great condition, which is why we wrapped them in plastic to protect them from the painting. The countertop looks in good condition as well, along with the appliances. This needs a couple of pieces of hardware and a thorough cleaning once everything's done, and we're good to go to rent it out to another tenant. So we've already seen the main level, so we're gonna go upstairs. We're going to take a look at the bedrooms and also the bathrooms, so please come join me, okay? Okay, so we're upstairs, we're now in the master bedroom, okay? Now you notice here, the carpet is not covered in the cloth protecting it. Now, the reason why we're not covering the carpet and protecting it is because we're replacing it anyways. So there's no point in protecting something that we're gonna haul away and throw away. So they've already painted the ceilings here, they've patched up the walls, okay? And once they finish painting here, then they're gonna go downstairs and start painting the main level and also the basement. But at the same time, our carpet crew is gonna come up here to haul away the carpet and start putting down new padding and new carpet while they're painting downstairs. This is called good management. See, what we wanna do is plan out how to work things in different crews in parallel instead of in series. What I mean by that is being able to do more than one thing at the same time. And this requires careful project management and careful planning, so that way a project that should take 2 weeks should take only 2 weeks and not overrun on the actual budget and also the time it takes to finish the project. So that's going to be very important in our construction company, is to the ability to manage it properly so that way it finishes quickly. Okay, so we're in the master bathroom now, and most of the stuff in here are in great condition. So that's why there's cloth here covering the floor, there's plastic covering the sink and also parts of the toilet and also the tub. All we're doing here right now is we're painting, and once the paint is done, we're going to finish caulking all around the bathtub, re-caulking the toilet, and also changing the guts of the toilet because it was making some noises and leaking water inside. But the toilet itself is good. Doesn't cost that much to replace the stuff, okay? So this is just what you call being smart as an investor and a contractor. Most contractors will recommend you change the entire toilet so they can charge you extra. But me as an investor, I don't want to spend money where I don't have to, right? We gotta be smart with our money, smart with our investment. So changing out the guts is much cheaper, obviously, than changing out the entire toilet. Now, the toilet itself is only $100, but to remove it and install a new one in and then hauling away the old one is where the major costs are. Whereas if you just change the guts of the hardware inside the toilet, doesn't take much debris, and we just throw it out in the garbage can and we're good to go, okay? So there's not much construction material being thrown away there, which saves us a lot of money as an investor. So as an experienced investor myself, I want to pass on these savings to other investors so that way they can have more volume and be more successful as a fix and flipper and also a buy and hold investor. Okay, so we're done with the top level now. We're gonna go downstairs to the basement to see what that looks like, okay? So come join me. Okay, so we're in the basement right now, and I noticed here that there's a couple of dome lights and also some drop tiles as well. Now, as a rental property, we don't really need to do much. Regular contractors, they're probably going to suggest you change the drywall, but that's probably more appropriate if you're going to sell the property. But as a rental property, not a big deal. Best thing to do is probably paint it to make it look fresh again, and then we're good to go, okay? If you're going to sell the property, you definitely want to install recessed lights, but if you're going to rent it out, one dome light will suffice. No need to spend any more money than that when you're renting it out. Okay, so we're in the utility room right now in the basement here, and there's not much to do here because it's going to be a rental property. All we got to do is clean it up, okay? But let's talk about some of the things that you definitely want to take notice to. First of all, the hot water heater looks pretty new, probably about 5, maybe 6 years old, so it's in great condition. As long as it's working, we'll just leave it just like that. We'll just clean up the top to make it look suitable again. The air handler for the HVAC looks like a heat pump here with no natural gas. This looks fairly new as well, probably in the last 5 years or so. So one of the things that we always do for our investors is to make sure the unit is protected, okay? When we paint upstairs and sand the drywall, a lot of dust is going to be going into the ventilation system and then going into the filter here. We want to make sure that once the construction is done and everything's sanded, we're going to change out the air filter to make sure that the unit is protected and that new air that comes in without the dust can last much longer, because now the air filter is not all used up from all the drywall dust that we've had from the construction, okay? So every time we finish construction, we definitely want to clean the HVAC unit, the air handler, change out the filter, so that way all the construction debris doesn't clog up the system inside, causing a lower lifetime of the actual unit. All right, guys, well, there you have it. There's a construction project for a rental property, okay? Not much to it, especially when there's a lot of things that are still working and not major construction needed. If there were major construction needed, they will let you know about it. But generally, paint and carpet is the scope of this project, and anything that's not working is broken, okay? So there are a couple of doorknobs that were not there on the actual handles of the cabinet doors. That will be changed out. The refrigerator actually was missing a handle. That will be changed out as well. There was a cabinet upstairs in the bathroom that had cracks. We're going to bondo that and repaint it to make it look fresh again. So a lot of small things that we would do to make the rental property ready again for a brand new tenant. So the scope of this project is no more than $9,000, all right? And it's roughly a 2,000 square foot townhouse. And so there's a lot of paint that needs to be done in the ceilings and the walls to get it all done. But for that price, guys, I tell you, our construction company is designed by investors for investors, and we don't overcharge because we make sure that the bottom line of the investor is satisfactory, so that way they can make a decent margin at the end of the day.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that video, Nicholas. We can go back to the presentation here and start addressing any questions first. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. We do want to do these kinds of videos so that way you can kind of see the life of an actual deal, because again, we can train all night long, but until you go into a property or see it on video or see real things that we're talking about, much of it doesn't make as much sense, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up with Nicholas here to address any questions that may have came up during this presentation. So Nicholas, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Our first question is from Mr. Alan Taylor, and he asks, when you were planning a renovation, do you rely on your general contractor to plan the order of work, or do you have a general rule of thumb of which the work should be done?
So good question. If the general contractor is a good manager, he should be the one to plan out everything, because he should know the order of things more than you. This is his career, his or her career, and they should know that certain things should be done before something else, and vice versa. So for our particular construction team, we have a specific site manager with a lot of experience, and we, I really get on him to be a better project manager every single day. And the whole goal is finish it right and finish it fast, right? And the reason why that's important for me personally is because the longer we take, the more it costs the investor. At the same time, the longer it takes for us, the more money it costs on the construction side, right? So we don't manage the property to where things are done in parallel, where they can be, then things can be, things can hurt our construction side from a financial standpoint, and also harm the holding cost of the actual investor. Now, that particular video, we estimated our project to be complete at 2 weeks, okay? But we actually finished that project in 8 days. And so the investor, the owner of the house, was very, very happy with that. She was able to get a new tenant on there, I believe, on March the 1st, because we did that in February, and there was enough time in the month of February for her to get a new tenant in the month of March. So she was very happy about that. Okay.
All right. All right. This next question is also from Alan. He asks, what kind of turnover do you see among your contractors and subcontractors from job to job?
Well, if the contractors do this for a career, done this for a while, they'll stick with you because you're going to give them volume, right? So I haven't had much turnover whatsoever. Now, with regards to a general contractor, they may have a few people here and there for their own personal attrition, whether they might have a personal life crisis where they have to go back home to Central America, or they have to move somewhere else, or they quit their job, they want to do a career. Now that happens, but the actual general contractor itself, they stay pretty busy because we give them volume because they're good, and we don't micromanage them because they're good. Okay, so to answer your question, what kind of attrition or what kind of turnover you say? Not much at all. Now we do occasionally have to fire a couple of contractors early on of my business when I was still learning the hang of things. For me, I have too good of a heart. I try to give people a second chance to take responsibility for mistakes. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I sometimes give them third chances and fourth chances, but I realized later on down the road that business is business, and even though I may consider them my friend, I can't leave them with me and then expect my business to succeed. I have to make tough decisions and get my emotions out of the way and fire people as needed. Okay.
All right, and our next question is also from Alan, and he asks, how do you decide to hire a contractor, and how do you decide to fire a contractor?
So hiring, great question. I usually would ask for a portfolio of the last, so many jobs they've done in the last year. Now, if they've done jobs multiple years ago, then that may not be a good sign, because I want people who are actively doing stuff now, not years ago. So I'm going to ask for certain addresses in their portfolio. I'm going to look them up on Zillow or whatever, just take a look at, if there's before pictures, that's great, but I'm looking for the after pictures and what they have done. And then I'll ask them, how long does this project take? I'll look at the sale, purchase date and sale date, especially if they're working with an investor. So if they're doing a regular fix and flip renovation, that's a simple rehab that looks like a simple rehab of a 1980 house, and the purchase was, let's say January of 2020, but they didn't put it on the market until August of 2020, which is 8 months later, that's a bad sign for a simple rehab. That means it took too long, okay? But if I saw that they were able to put it on the market, and let's say in March of the same year, and the whole project took 2 months, then that says to me that they were able to get their act together and do things pretty fast. Now, when it comes to firing, as I mentioned earlier, I, sometimes to my own detriment, I give people a second chance for them, they don't deserve it, okay? Usually, I want people, if there is a mistake, we're all human beings. If there is a mistake, I need them to take responsibility. If they choose not to take responsibility and do the blame game, and they say, well, this happened because of this, and this happened because of that, and and all that stuff, then I can't do, I can't work with that. If you don't take responsibility, then you're out the door pretty quickly. Okay, I may give them another chance and say, hey, look, are you sure there's not something you did wrong because you made the bad decision or wrong decision? I'll give them a chance to confess. Sometimes it's hard to confess, right? And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But if they don't over a period of time, and I see that's harming my business, they got to go. All right, and then I get someone else in there to be able to finish that job. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right. This next question is from Marlon Brandes, and he asks, how do you find construction crew members that can pass E-Verify?
Pass E-Verify. Well, generally, you wouldn't have to go through specific workers, right? You would go to a general contractor who's already licensed, and you ask for their license number, and you Google, or let's say you have a job in Northern Virginia in Fairfax County, right? You would go on the Fairfax County website to look for their business license to see if their license is active, expired, or non-existent. If they're already licensed, and that's a good sign, because now they have to have their own insurance. They have to have their own, basically they have to know, they have to go through a test process and pass that with that local state to be able to do the business they're doing, which is a general contractor, okay? So I don't E-Verify, direct people, all right? Because I'm not hiring handymen. I'm not hiring employees. I'm hiring a contractor, right? And the contractor is responsible for hiring their own crew. but the person who owns the contracting business needs to be licensed, and that's how you can validate whether or not they should be doing the job or not. Because if they're not licensed, they cannot pull the right permits as well in that county, and you need a licensed contractor who knows how to pull those right permits. Okay.
All right, and this next question is from Carol Kennedy, and she asks, do you use a multiplier for your money per square foot? Meaning, do you have a rough number for ARV of 600K versus ARV of 1.5 million?
Not necessarily, because it's all based on square footage. So, for a house that's worth more, obviously the materials may be more, but the square footage is going to be higher as well. All right. So the formulas I've given you are a standard rule of thumb, and there are notable exceptions. So if you're in a high-end area like McLean, Virginia, or Great Falls, Virginia, where they expect top-of-the-line stuff, but the house is very big, then obviously we need to probably add some contingency in the renovation estimate, okay? But in the normal course of things, where you're just doing a 2,000 square foot Rambler, or maybe a 2,000 square foot townhouse, or maybe a row house in DC that's 1,200 square foot above grade with 800 square feet in the basement, then these formulas work very well. And again, not everything that we have here is perfect. It's a starting point for you to be able to do an analysis from home without looking at the property. Okay?
All right, and our last question for tonight is from Cameron, and he asks, how accurate is Rehab formula, and can you use without actually seeing the inside of a property?
Very accurate. It's accurate for estimation purposes, all right? And when we get into the property, we may find new things, right? In the normal course of things, the formula works very well. However, let's say you go to a house that was built in 1960. Now, in a 1960s house, you would use a minor rehab formula, all right? But let's say you use that, you negotiate a deal, and the seller agrees to a specific price based on your current estimate. But then you go to the property and notice there's no roof, or notice there's a fire damage, or notice there is a structural damage in the foundation. Well, now the minor rehab's not going to work anymore. You have to add on to that. All right. And does that happen? Yes. Does it happen often? No. All right. So we can't cover all exceptions. We cover for the most likely situations based on the age of the house. All right. Does that make sense? And again, like I said, these formulas and numbers are a guide. They are not in place of what your contractor comes back at, okay? You can use your number and compare the numbers to your contractor to see if it's in the ballpark, if it's too high, if it's too low, or whatnot, to be able to gauge if the contractor is giving you a good number or not. And if not, let's say your square footage number comes up to $100,000, but they're charging you $125,000. Well, guess what? You should negotiate that, especially if there's nothing out of the ordinary with that particular property, okay? Any other questions
that we have tonight?
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Nicholas does have a special announcement of what we're doing next month, so please stay tuned as he shares that announcement for next month. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Nhan. So yeah, guys, next month we're going to be having our next free webinar. It's going to be going over how to rehab for big profit, and we're going to be doing things a little bit differently this time. Instead of having just Nhan talking, we're going to have multiple people. It's going to be a panel full of prior successful students. So yeah, they will be they're prior successful students, and they completed deals in the past that followed our system. And these students initially didn't have any experience at all, and we're going to have a very diverse set of individuals. So please look forward to that. So yeah, be sure to like our new Facebook page. We recently made a new one, and that's going to be the Nhan Lam Academy Facebook page, and also follow our TikTok. We post daily on there as well. That's going to be officially Nhan Lam. And yeah, guys, thank you for coming out again tonight, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. God bless and take care.